And welcome back. Another day has come and gone, almost gone. Don't forget, next week, for our East Coast and Central Time listeners, we're going to begin running the program from 6 until 9 p.m. Pacific. That's 9 until midnight Eastern. So our East Coast folks can certainly be more available to be guests on the program for you and can get some more sleep earlier as well. Okay, a targeted individual. What's a TI? I think many of you know, but for those of you who don't know, a targeted individual is someone who has been selected by the deep state, usually the FBI or CIA, but it can be any group, to unwillingly participate, i.e., become a victim in a government experimental torture program. I'm not so sure if it's experimental anymore. They know exactly what the hell they're doing. This program is designed to break down the individual and neutralize him or her using psychological, physical, and emotional stress. This can also start when someone is very young, aged 5 or 6 usually, where they are sacrificed to the cult, the satanic sexual abuse. It's called SRA, satanic ritual abuse, the cult. They are broken down into fragments. They are then somewhat put back together, but controlled usually for the rest of their lives, and used, tormented as test subjects, as subjects that are used to actually implement such things as mass shootings and other crimes of horror, which happen all too often now. And in virtually every case, you can make an argument, or if you study it long enough, that the individual involved in the mass shootings, for example, they're programmed. You've seen their pictures. Look at their faces. Look in their eyes. It's all there. They're destroyed. They're used and abused and tossed. Human life means nothing to the people running targeted individual terror, which is what it really is. Gang stalking is part of that as well. And tragically, those young people, especially girls 5 years of age, that's before the personality is really formed, they're taken apart, sexually destroyed, and for the rest of their lives, they never really understand what things like love is. They don't have that ability. They literally have been victimized to their core. It's a terrible, terrible thing that so-called human beings are able, capable, and do in fact do to other human beings. We have two of the best in the field tonight here to talk about all this, because I think many of you listening may suspect you're targeted. We don't know how many are, but it's a lot. And with the coming of 5G, it's going to be a cakewalk for the controllers. You will be sought out by your very DNA and targeted for EMF, breakdowns, instruction, torment, you name it. Ken Rhoades is back with us tonight. Kenny has been just like a godfather figure in the field in all good sense of that term. He is a man that most everyone looks up to for guidance, leadership, to consult with. And David Brinsko, another one who is extremely well thought of and respected in the field, is back with us again tonight. So first, let's say hello to Kenny. Are you there, Ken?
Yes, I'm here, Jeff. Thank you for giving us the opportunity, Jeff.
Always honored to have you on, Ken. And David, welcome back. You've had some great programs here as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. As Ken said, it sure is a blessing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We have no way of knowing how many people are involved, but we do know it's a worldwide phenomenon. And that's not to say that programs in other countries aren't set up and being used, because they are. But if someone here is targeted, singled out, put in the database, the supercomputer, no matter where they go, there's nowhere for them to hide. Nowhere, because this can be easily administered from satellite, and is. And I don't know how many people are involved. Any thoughts on this, Ken, first?
Yes, Jeff. Well, here in 2016, Jeff, a girl named Sarah Carter and a guy named, let me find his name here, John Solomon, went on Hannity's show on Fox News and said that the guy named Dennis Montgomery was a CIA whistleblower and he's dying. So he was coming out and he got the whistleblower from the FBI, but he had to turn in everything that he took from him when he quit. So he turned it all over. Mm-hmm. Then Larry Klayman picked up his case. Then they got shut out in the courts, always under national security.
Yeah.
So, and they went on Hannity's show and said, not only was they spying on Trump, they spying on 20 million Americans. And I think it's much more than that.
20 million. So even if it's 20 million, that's an ungodly number of people. Wow.
Well, Jeff, this guy, he said he developed a supercomputer called Hammer, and he could spy. He set it up where they could spy on every American. So you're talking about over 300 and something million people.
Yeah. Now, so, tell me a little bit more about this program. What do you know about it? Now, this guy, you say Dennis Montgomery was the name?
Yes.
Okay.
People can Google him up.
All right. What is this program? I don't know this name.
It was called Hammer. He said he set up a computer, and they called it Hammer.
Right.
Now, I don't know what the name means, but he said he could actually spy on every American with the computer he set up for the CIA.
How would those spying techniques be employed? What are we talking about here? Obviously, computer monitoring, cell phone monitoring, obviously things like that. Are you talking about the ability to physically, in real time, check in on some people? Is that where we are with this?
No, not check in, under 24-hour surveillance. Oh my! He said he could get their bank accounts. He could get everybody you dealt with, everybody you talked to, everything. I mean, this is full-blown target individual program he's talking about. So, I don't know. I talked to Larry Klayman, which Larry Klayman took his case. So I talked to Larry last Friday, I believe it was, and he told me, he said, Kenny, I know it's going on, but I'll walk the floors of Congress and the Senate. He said, not one person up there was willing to take this on. Not one person. But yet, you know, they all know about it.
Cowards, you bet. Yeah. I think most people in the Congress, honestly now, are so compromised. We could use the term compromise, but that includes blackmail, you name it. They're all controlled. Any of them of any significance are controlled, and they're not necessarily classical TIs. They're just controlled. They've been compromised, and they are under the boot of somebody or some group. This is very interesting. Hammer, I didn't know about that. David Brinsko, did you know about this Hammer program?
The Hammer doesn't, I don't know anything about that, I have to be honest with you, but I do know about the report on Hannity by Sarah
Carter.
Carter, and the information that came out about that, about the 20 million people being victimized, through various things like their bank accounts, their home, their car, everything that they could possibly do through this victimization process they were doing to 20 million. And I want to say that we're talking about one person here, Dennis Montgomery, who, he contracted out for the CIA and whatever. He's just one person, but yet he came up with 20 million U.S. citizens. He had over 600 million, documents.
Pieces of data.
It was just, it's unbelievable. I mean, and this individual he just told it like it was. I mean, if one person can come up with 20 million people, he's just one person. If you can just imagine other individuals that work for the NSA and all these various agencies, it's got to be much more than 20 million.
Oh, yeah. This is fascinating. Now, this figure, what you're relating to us, both of you, was actually mentioned on Hannity?
Yes.
And what was Hannity's reaction? What did he say, Ken?
He said 20 million, and then come to find out Fox News went and interviewed Dennis Montgomery,
Yeah.
That's when we're just now finding out about it. Here it is, 19. So and Hannity keeps saying the FBI, the rank and file are good. No, they're not good. Everybody in the FBI knows about this. Because when the target individuals goes and makes a complaint to the FBI, they just laugh at them. You know, so you're not talking about the top 3 or 4 people.
Right.
We're talking about the whole FBI. They're in on this. They're all dirty.
Well, we're supposed to think that the top echelon of the FBI is the only hands-on faction running these programs. No. The bottom end of it does the work, so they know. Of course they know. Now I found a video here, it's only 2 minutes long, of Dennis Montgomery explaining that harvested data can be used to frame people. This is March 2017. So let's see what he has to say. I haven't heard this, and maybe you guys have, but I want to see what he says here. This is Dennis Montgomery.
So let me ask you a question before we go any further. I'm a government. You know what? Through harvesting to protect the country, yada, 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 we inadvertently collected blah, 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 blah. It's innocuous information. Nothing can really be done with it.
Yeah. Social security number, credit card numbers.
What else could be done with this information? What could you do if you wanted to destroy the life of somebody with this information?
I'd go into their email accounts and I'd start uploading emails. I'd send pedophile or picture links into their email accounts of pedophile kids. I'd say this guy's a pedophile. I would create a linked list. I'd upload into his email account all that. Then I'd download his email and say, look at all the websites this guy's been to. He's been to pedophile accounts.
How could you financially destroy somebody with this?
Oh, it's easy. I just go in his bank account, I go to the IRS, I take the information out. Let's say because I went into J. Edwards, Morgan Stanley. I go into his account, take all the information, send it over to the IRS, let him have it. Oh, really? He only claimed $87,000 this year. Well, here's all his bank account records. Oh, by the way, they're offshore. I don't know if you knew that. There's an endless way I can do it. There's so much data here. There's no way to protect yourself.
When you're doing this with Fox, you've got to try to convey that because the public doesn't understand.
I've already said it twice.
Okay.
And I've said it on the record.
Okay.
And what I've said on the record is, it isn't innocuous information. The problem is, who has this?
That's right.
The guy walks out of the building, that's somebody's buddy, and he's over there charging bank accounts or going into people's email accounts because he's got the passwords to them. That's why people are told to change your passwords all the time and all that. I mean, it goes on. I mean, what does the government say? We weren't document harvesting? I just showed you your fucking letter. You want your emails? They're on there. I'll start dumping emails to you. You know, it's without limit.
Well, there you go. An insider telling it like it is. Easily 20 million people around the clock, 24/7, surveilled, data gathered. People's lives can be ruined, literally with a few keystrokes. It's that crazy. David, have you, either one of you gentlemen heard Dennis Montgomery talk like this? Is this old news?
Well,
no, this was 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
But a girl named, I think Stacy Benz or something, she put it up and she showed all the papers that he had. They said if they stacked the papers up, what he turned into the FBI, the information he gave them, if you stacked on top of each other, it'd be 30 miles high.
That's incredible.
And yet, yeah, it's incredible what this deep state is doing to the citizens of this country. And when they put 5G in, it's even going to be worse, Jeff. Much, much worse. Then it's going to be total control of our country. If people don't stand up, and the Americans that's helping them do this, I call it organized stalking, if they don't quit doing it, they're selling them and their family and their great-grandkids and their grandkids. They're selling them out, too. These people have no soul, no morals, no nothing.
You're talking about a populace that will be literally enslaved from cradle to grave. No, before cradle to grave. There'll be pre-birth interruption. This is I know a lot of this, but I'm speaking on behalf of our listeners. This is really hard for people to believe. And David, I guess that's part of the trick, isn't it? The average person, the average sheep, I'm not being negative, I'm not being condescending, but most people who look at the MSM for news and information are sheep. They don't get it. But the average person wouldn't believe this. If they saw it on Hannity, they'd dismiss it. Not only is it uncomfortable for them to entertain something like this, David Brinsko, but the reality of it is it's too much for them.
Individuals today are moving so fast. They're moving so fast that they're moving past the most important thing that they could possibly move past. And that is this technology issue that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Tonight, I wanted to kind of go over a couple things, okay?
Sure.
Whenever I get a chance here. And a lot of people that come to me, I'll be talking about these various technologies and stuff, and they'll just look at me like, well, hey, look, why would our government do things like this? Why would they do that? Well, why would they do it to you or anybody else? And when my comeback answer to this is from past research projects. I come back in with the MK Ultra, the COINTELPRO, the Department of Energy experiment. There was a lady that you talked about. I forgot her name, but she was the one who critiqued, I believe, the last broadcast that we did with you. And you told me her name. But anyway, she critiqued it, and she said that she couldn't find any documentation where I had spoke about 500,000 U.S. citizens being used as a research project in the United States of America.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yes.
Okay. I just want to read a short clip for you, okay? This is in the Washington Times, and it says it was September 29th, 1994. It says 500,000 endangered by tests since 1940. At least 500,000 people were used as subjects in a Cold War-era radiation biological chemical experiment sponsored by the federal government. A congressional agency said yesterday, the General Accounting Office, the GAO, is the first major overview of all the defense-related human experiments, told the House subcommittee that the tests conducted from 1940 to 1974 ranged from radiation to biological and chemical agents like mustard gas, LSD. This hearing reads like a chapter from the science fiction novel, said Rep. John Conyers Jr. from Michigan, is Democrat, and chairman of the House Government Operations Committee, Legislation and National Security Subcommittee. There's something eerie about this. It is beyond most people's rational anticipation that their government could have been doing this, he said. While many of the government's human radiation experiments have come to light over the past year, this is the first time Congress has been presented with an overview of all the Cold War experiments. The GAO officials stressed that the work is preliminary and that the numbers of the experiment and people involved may rise even more after more information is made public by the Pentagon, the Energy Department, the CIA, NASA, and other agencies. Many of the Cold War tests were conducted in secret, while others involved the use of people without their consent or their full knowledge of the risk involved, the GAO said. Some involved vulnerable populations such as prison inmates, hospital patients. Now, I want to gear on the hospital patients because we talked about the Montreal 9. These individuals were in a Montreal hospital, okay? And the CIA and the hospital, they worked in collusion, okay, to get these people in the hospital and experiment on them and research without consent. He said that some of these were individuals from the Army, whatever, but they also did human experiments that were done on a larger scale from 1949 to 1969. For example, the U.S. Army conducted biological warfare tests that released radioactive compounds in 239 cities. Now so my point is that they ask me, well, why would the government do this? Well, I say to them, why did they do this? Why did they endanger the lives? And they kill people. They kill people.
Oh, they kill people often. Yeah, sure.
People tested in the United States of America.
Right.
This crimes are egregious.
They are egregious. That's the key question. We have to take a break here. When people come to you, Ken and David and you others out there who are working to try to enlighten the public, and say things like, well, the government wouldn't do that to us. Why would the government do that to its people? The government's here to serve us. No, the government's here to serve us like you'd serve a meal. We're food. We're just used. We're prepared and used. Back in a minute. Hold on. Okay, welcome back. Talking to Ken Rhoades and David Brinsko about Dennis Montgomery. I wonder how Dennis Montgomery ever got on Hannity in the first place. What do you think, Kenny? Was that an intentional effort by somebody to get some of this information out, or was it a mistake?
I think he's dying. I know he's dying. He's got a brain aneurysm. He's dying. He may already be dead. I don't know. That was 2016.
Yeah.
But he didn't get on Hannity now. Actually, Sarah Carter and
well, it was indirect. Yeah, indirectly.
Right. Yes. But they did. But Fox News did come out and interview him for a full week. So. That's true. I mean, it's going on, and when the FBI, they made him turn in all the thumb drives and everything he used to get the information so he could prove it. So that's going to get buried now.
Oh yeah. So he's formerly a software designer and former medical technician. He's really a perfect candidate to run a program like this or to be involved with it. Here's another, and there's so many angles to this. I'm going to jump around just a little bit. David, was there anything you wanted to add to what you said that we didn't get to first?
Yes, there was. Along the same lines with these 500,000 plus U.S. citizens that were researched upon without consent. First of all, they said that some of them had given their consent, but they never found one consent form for this, for these.
Yeah.
So along these lines, another press article on the same subject that says the federal agencies conducted a 30-year series of radiation exposure experiments on human subjects, including injecting them with plutonium, radium, uranium, okay? And they said these victims received doses 98 times the body burden. What they were doing was that American citizens became nuclear calibration devices. The report said some of them were willing subjects. The report said that there is no record of informed consent for others. The subjects included prisoners, elderly, and the terminally ill. And like I said before, they come back. They were screaming at the top of their lungs. Some of the individuals, the elderly, they were screaming. They were telling their children, "There's something going on. There's something going on." And what I wanted to add to all this is that we know about nursing home abuses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And these days and times, we can't just be concerned with nursing home abuse. We have to look at everything as to a point where there may be something going on. I'm not saying to walk around like you're paranoid or anything, but hospitals are included in this because we already know about the Montreal 9. If it hadn't been for the fact that Raw, Lichtman, Turner, and Levy finally took the case, these people would have been totally, covered up. They would have never brought it out, but they won the lawsuit. And they received like $700,000. But my point is that we have to watch hospitals too. We got to watch everything today.
Wow.
Hey, Dave,
go ahead.
You just gave that information. Where did you get that from?
What I just read, you mean? I got it from the Washington Post. There weren't articles from the Washington Times, excuse me. I got another one from the Journal Advisor, another newspaper in Washington, D.C. And the third one, I haven't even read the third one yet, but that was also from a Washington newspaper. It was called the Cold War Era Testing. and they received, they paid out $4.8 million, if you can believe this, $4.8 million, and they only found one person that it went to one person. The money will go to one woman who took part in the experiments, and 11 other people who have died. Families. They said the families of 11 other people who have died, and they split that $4.8 million. My point is, well, what about the other 500,000 people? I mean, they only found one person, and the paper's saying that they had over 500,000, the government accounting office. So, I mean, these are cover-ups that are beyond cover-ups. And the greatest one is right now.
Okay.
But it's good, Dave, it's good to give where you got it from so people can go, they don't just have to take our word. They can go look it up.
Right, sure, good point. Okay, let me read this now.
I'm reading it because my point is that if I can, like this lady who critiqued the last broadcast that we did, she said she couldn't find any documentation. Now, you're not going to be able to get it from the newspapers because I've been trying to get things from the newspapers.
And if you think you're going to find it through a Google search, forget it. That stuff's going to be pushed back 20 pages deep if it's there at all. A lot of it.
What you got to do now is you got to go to the libraries, and you got to go through the microfiche, and then they'll make a copy for you if you know where you're looking at, what you're looking for. Then they can put up.
Okay, here's another one. This is a year ago, June 7th, 2017. On June the 5th, whistleblower and former CIA, NSA, and I'm reading this from a story from a site called Communities Digital News, CDN. On June 5th, whistleblower and former CIA NSA contractor Dennis Montgomery filed a federal lawsuit against former President Barack Obama, former CIA Director John Brennan, you want to see the face of evil? Former FBI Director James Comey, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, even worse, the NSA, the CIA, and other former and current government officials. The suit again filed by Dennis Montgomery. The suit claims that the defendants failed to investigate Montgomery's whistleblower reports of illegal surveillance on Donald Trump and millions of other Americans, up to 20 million to be precise, or more. Montgomery alleges that the U.S. government wiretapped 17, this is under Obama now, 17 Trump businesses, including Trump Tower, Trump leasing programs, Donald Trump himself, and various Trump family members. Guess you can figure out who they were. All were wiretapped under the Obama administration. All of them. There has been a wiretap on Trump for years, according to Montgomery. Here's a quote. The proof of Donald Trump being wiretapped is in the documents that were handed right over to the FBI, Montgomery's attorney Larry Klayman told reporters. Klayman is the founder of Judicial Watch and of Freedom Watch, which issued a press release about Montgomery's complaint. Although the suit does not identify the surveillance system by name, audio recordings released in 2015, 4 years ago, by the U.S. District Court Judge G. Murray Snow in Maricopa County, Arizona, identify a secret government surveillance system called the Hammer, allegedly used to spy on Trump, 159 judges. How do you get judges to do what you want? Figure it out. Including Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts and millions of other Americans. Klayman reported that Montgomery indicated that the surveillance program also targeted the late, obviously murdered, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, who was found dead at an exclusive Texas hunting ranch in 2016. According to an audio recording of Tim Blixseth, whose ex-wife worked with Montgomery at BLXware, LLC of Bellevue, Washington, the Hammer was used to wiretap Donald Trump a zillion times. She said everything they said they didn't do that Brennan said recently, mainly Clapper. It's all BS. And I've got it right here, said Tim Blixeth on one of the audio recordings. This is big stuff. And what did they do? They spent over 2 years on this alleged Russiagate garbage, when this is the story of the last 20 or 30 years. This is a huge story. How often have you heard about it? Most of you would say, I never heard about it. Formally, I heard bits and pieces. This is a gigantic story. Trump is more than compromised, and therein may lie part of the answer as to why he has betrayed America more than any other president I can remember since he has been sworn into office, vis-a-vis his 18 months of promises, pledges, vows that he was going to do this, that, and the other thing. He hasn't done anything. He's stabbed America in the back so often now, you can see right through it. Ken, what about this stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but you would think he'd be mad, but maybe that's why they want his taxes so bad. Because they know everything about you.
You bet.
Look at the Democratic Party when Self-Rich, he's the one that took all the thumb drives and stuff out of theirs and told what they were doing to crazy Bernie Sanders. And what happened to him? He was dead in a few days. Now they're trying to bury that, and it wasn't a robbery. Nothing was taken from him, but he was dead. But even William Binney said he could not duplicate, he could not download all that information without the DNC or whatever they are, the Democrats being able to catch it. So he said it had to be done from the inside. He gave it to Julian Assange, and now what's Trump letting them do to Julian Assange right now? I'm telling you, Jeff, this here is so bad that they're going to bring Julian Assange, and he could be facing a death penalty. If he comes over to America,
yeah, if he lives that long, Kenny.
Right, they'll kill him. They're not going to let him tell anymore. They're not going to let him tell anymore. No,
he knows so much. He'll be found hung, suicidal, of course, in his jail cell. They'll kill him. That's how they usually do it. If they're going to take a chance and let him testify, I would be surprised.
I don't think so. I don't think they'll let him testify. But what I was getting at, how do they know Self-Rich did it? How do they know he's the one that did it if they're not monitoring all America?
No, they knew Seth Rich did it. Of course they knew, and that's why he was shot to death twice in the back, and apparently he died later in the hospital. The wounds didn't kill him on the spot. He supposedly died 20 minutes after being admitted to the hospital. In other words, they finished the job off there. So, yeah, right. They killed Seth Rich, of course. This is all so much deeper than Fox or any of these news services will ever let on. They're not going to do it. And people think that they're actually informed by looking at this garbage. No, it's not even close. Yeah, David, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You have a comment on any of this that we're talking about? I want to make sure you're in.
Oh, I see what you're saying, but I have, what I did was I wanted to do a little shift, because I remember earlier you had asked, are we going to talk about directed energy weapons or what are we? But I wanted to cover kind of like a broad, kind of like a diversified type of talk, and
sure.
So I have a few things I want to talk about, but I'll talk about what you want to talk about, I guess.
No, we have plenty of time, and I want to get it all in here. Kenny, go ahead. You got something there?
No, you can go ahead and talk there, Dave. Jeff, this is so bad. I got a friend for years. She's 95 years old. She's living in a nursing home, and I've seen her about a year ago.
Yeah.
And she tells me, she said, they're still hitting me with this technology right here in the nursing home. Now, how sad is that? 95 years old, the woman is.
It's morbid. It's beyond my ability to understand that an alleged human being could do this kind of crap. I'm not naive, for God's sakes. It's inhuman. It's not human behavior as we define it. It's something else. All right, David, go ahead. Let's start with what you want to do. Wherever you want to go is fine.
I wanted to bring up a few things. First of all, these technologies, okay, now first of all, 20 million people they talked about with Dennis Montgomery that are being targeted, okay? They haven't even got to the point where, with like a lot of the targeted individuals that I've, researched over the last 36 years, they talk about being hit with microwave, laser, and other forms of electromagnetic directed energy,
right.
Okay? My thing is that I want to let the people within the earshot of my voice tonight know that there are still laws on the books, like the Nuremberg Code, for instance, okay? The Nuremberg Code came out right after World War II because of the egregious acts of the Nazis. But right at the top of the Nuremberg Code, it says the voluntary consent of a human subject is absolutely essential. Okay, this means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element or force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter. Along with that, first of all, there is no statute of limitations on these technologies. In other words, they look at these technologies, these directed energy weapons, as lethal, just like a gun, just like a knife or any other type of lethal technology, okay? And there's no statute of limitation, okay? According to the, let's see here, it says, I'm looking here, the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court specifically says that there's no statute of limitations on crimes against humanity, war crimes, shall not be subject to any statute of limitations. So what I'm trying to say is that all these sheriff departments, all these, law enforcement agencies, they are subject, okay, they are subject to these laws. And it's up to us to make sure, or at least let them know that we know, okay? Because right now, these technologies are running rampant, especially what Mark Phillips, he was a veteran of the CIA. My wife and I traveled to his home back in 1993 where he explained all these various technologies to me, just like Ted Gunderson explained them to me. Okay.
Yeah, that was with Kathy O'Brien, of course. Mark Phillips was her handler, allegedly.
Exactly. And he explained the whole thing. In fact, he confirmed my case, my case 100%. He said that, yes, he made a lot of phone calls while I was there. He talked to a lot of different people, and he confirmed my case 100% that this indeed was going on in my life, okay? So I thank God for that. I have documentation of that. So, and he also said that of all the people that he has helped, because you see, he was a part of MK Ultra. He admitted that. He apologized to me, although he didn't have to, because he wasn't a part of anything that was going on in my life at that time. But the bottom line was he apologized to me, because there's a time, I think, with Ted Gunderson, with the Mark Phillips, Gerald Sosby, he was also a special agent in charge of the FBI. And I have a little clip that he, when he was talking about this, well, back in the day when he was a special agent, that's when the FBI was really something, probably. Okay, but the bottom line is all these things that have happened, he had no part of. And they targeted him 35 years ago. And this is kind of interesting because that's when my targeting started 36 years ago. He said 35. I'm saying mine is 36 years plus 1 month right now. And we know where they've upset my entire life. Okay. And he said that they were engaging in insightful, things, through these various technologies. And he said that it began 35 years ago. Also, he said that the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, they're all a part of this, in collusion with the lying media, the psychiatrists, who get paid, and the police. Thousands of Americans and millions of citizens worldwide today are being burned alive with microwave, millimeter wave, sonic, scalar, radar weapons, all being hidden under the cover of secrecy of the national security and wrongfully classified labels. And he goes on to say these are crimes against humanity. Again, these crimes against humanity, there is no statute of limitations on these things. So if there's individuals out there listening tonight, you know, they shouldn't be waiting around, you know, waiting for some, you know, story to break that, yeah, this is for real, okay? They don't have to believe me because I'm not here to make anybody believe anything. I just want you to remember what I'm saying. I want you to remember what Kenny's saying. I want them to remember what you're saying, Jeff, because they no, there's no doubt in my mind, they wanted you dead. That's the reason why you had this car accident.
Yeah. I go back to what I said earlier. All this, and I've always felt that whole Russiagate thing was disinformation. Misdirection, if you will, to keep people from looking at Dennis Montgomery's research, his whistleblowing, things like that. This is huge. Trump knows that Obama spied on him. 17 different Trump business organizations, his whole family, constantly listened to, monitored, eavesdropped, wiretapped, you name it. Obama knew everything. This is the real story. It's not Russiagate. This is surveillance state America. Kenny, we got 2 minutes till the break. 5G is being rolled out now. We're going to get into this more in the next hour, but how much easier is it going to be for the hammer to be used on the American public with 5G?
I say it'll probably be 1,000 times easier. I say 5G is going to be the final nail in total control of all Americans. So they better wake up and start looking into this, because I don't think we got that much time before 5G is already coming in a lot of places. Every place except around Trump's house in Florida. It's not around there. So he must know something about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
So,
David, your thoughts on 5G, and then we'll get into this more next hour.
Well, you know, the last time we talked, we were talking how dangerous the cell phones already are. Okay,
yeah.
We have these kids, every kid on the corner, I mean, they all have these cell phones. They have them, they're literally glued to their head. Okay, and with 5G, we're talking about brain tumors. We're talking about all kind of illnesses that are going to take place. People are going to be dropping like flies. There's no doubt in my mind, and it's just that dangerous.
They're going to put these phones up to their heads, hours and hours a day. Some of them actually, I guess a lot of people do. They leave them on all night, dialed into a group of friends, and they kind of talk to each other, and they wake up and they go back to sleep. They got these big chains. It's like a daisy chain. They're never going to get away from this. It's not just the EMF microwave from the phones. It's what's embedded in it that's going into the brain, into the body, into the DNA. You're going to have memories of things that you never experienced. You'll have images in your mind of things you never saw. They'll do whatever they want to you. This is a piece of cake for them with 5G. That's why Trump was told to start pushing it. He said, we need 5G, 6G, whatever it is, roll it out. We've got to have it. Well, Trump's a good little poodle on a leash doing what he's told. Hold on. We'll be back with more in just a few minutes. Okay, let's get going. Hour number 2. Talking to Ken Rhoades and David Brinsko about the massive, sometimes fatal, always brutal surveillance of tens of millions of Americans. Let me read a little bit more from another story here about this, just giving an idea of what was in the news on the fringes over a year ago, came and went. This happens to be a new one from last January, so it's 5 months old. As the endless drone of Trump-Russia collusion continues, more evidence is coming to light that key Democrats, including President Obama, used the power of the surveillance state to illegally spy on prominent Americans, including Donald Trump, even before he was a candidate. As part of what Trump has repeatedly called a witch hunt, the Russiagate story, the Obama administration collected confidential data on Trump and others according to freedom activist lawyer Larry Klayman, who is also the founder of both Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch. Klayman's claim is not new. In fact, it's not even really his claim. It comes, of course, from his client, former NSA and CIA contractor Dennis Montgomery, who left the NSA and CIA, get this one, with 47 hard drives and over 600 million pages of information, much of which is classified. It showed the spy agencies were engaged for years in systematic legal surveillance on prominent Americans, including the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, other justices, 156 judges around the country, prominent businessmen such as Donald Trump, and Larry Klayman himself, according to an op-ed piece written by Klayman in March 2017. The purpose of that illegal deep state surveillance, Klayman surmises, is for potential coercion, blackmail, and other nefarious purposes, which is a hell of an understatement. Given the way the deep state and its Democrat political accomplices have attacked, derided, smeared, and undermined Donald Trump since as soon as he became a viable candidate, it is easy to follow and believe Klayman's assertion. In June 2017, Klayman joined Montgomery in suing former FBI Director James Comey, alleging that the FBI, under Comey's leadership, was involved in a cover-up of the FBI targeting of both Klayman and Montgomery, along with others, as subjects of illegal surveillance. As Klayman stated after filing the lawsuit, former FBI Director Comey and his agency have not only illegally spied on Mr. Montgomery and me, but have covered up and thus engaged in an obstruction of justice of the FBI's and the other intelligence agencies' illegal and unconstitutional mass surveillance. In the process of this illegal behavior, they have seriously damaged Montgomery and myself, and they will be held fully accountable under the rule of law for this and other tortious acts, which should also now be included in the ongoing grand jury investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. All right, end of quote. When Montgomery walked away from the NSA-CIA contract in 2015 with those hundreds of millions of damning documents, he did so as a whistleblower. But as Klayman wrote in the above-cited op-ed piece, when Montgomery came forward as a whistleblower to congressional intelligence committees and various other congressmen and senators, including Senator Charles Grassley, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who, like Comey, once had a reputation for being honest and had integrity, Montgomery was blown off. Nobody wanted to even hear what he had to say. Klayman offers several believable reasons for the cold shoulder Montgomery got, and it continues on the story. I'll stop there. Kenny, tell me more.
Well, I think Larry Klayman is probably one of the best attorneys. When he went down to Bundy Ranch, this guy sat there, and I think that's why a lot of things happened, because the judge wouldn't let him defend Clive and Bundy. She said he had a sanction against him in Florida or something. Well, just him sitting there in that courtroom every day, and I sat there with him.
In Las Vegas. Difference. That was in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. So that made a big difference. But you know what, Jeff, I'm going to tell you, the way you covered this tonight, I think I appreciate the hell out of this, because this is something that people can go, it's right now. I can go back 50, 60 years on mine. But right now what's happening, this is where the American people need to start watching and start doing something about this. So I really appreciate you covering Dennis Montgomery the way you did. I'll tell you that.
I'm happy to be able to do it. That's what I'm here for. This is so heinous and vile when you think about the American Constitution, and you think back on James Comey raising his right hand and swearing to tell the whole truth before his testimony. These people are psychopathic liars. All of them. All of them. They all know what's going on. Trump knows. President Plump, he knows what's going on. Obama, a master criminal. Look how he abused the resources under him. This These people should all be locked up or hung from the nearest light post. As George Herbert Walker Bush once said, and I'll quote him, "If they knew what we were really doing, they'd hang all of us as soon as they could grab us." And he was right. These people are beyond criminal. We don't have a government in this country. We have a criminal cabal, a corporatocracy of felons. It's not going to stop. Evil knows no bounds. And this is as evil as it gets. And bless Dennis Montgomery. He's still alive, apparently. They haven't killed him yet. But he tried. But guess where he got? Nowhere. They shut the door on him.
Absolutely. And I know Eric Trump knows, Jeff, because when he came to Michigan, I met with him, shook his hand, and told him, and give his dad a letter and all the patents that I got off your website about all these patents. I gave all that to him. So it's not like the Trump family don't know. Hopefully, I'm hoping somebody will do something, because, I mean, this is terrible. I had a woman, Jeff, when I was down in Arizona. I just got back from vacation. I was down for 4 months, get out of the snow up here.
Yeah.
She came to me and she said, "You know what you've been talking about for years, Kenny?" I said, "Yeah." She said, and this woman, 65 years old, she said, "All of a sudden I'm getting all these illnesses. I'm getting this, I'm getting that, and the doctor's telling me I got Parkinson's." She said, "Do you think that they're using this on me?" I said, "Absolutely, I do." And she said, "How about my granddaughter?" I said, "Yeah, they call her Sammy." I said, "Yeah, they're doing it to Sammy too." I mean, I just watch how people react when I'm around them. There's a lot of people targeted, have no clue that they're being targeted. Because this is it's made to look like you're mentally ill when you talk about it. But if you've been around, you've talked to me many a time. Most people have. I'm not mentally ill. I mean, I'm 75 years old. I may be getting a little bit old and feeble and can't remember like I used to, but I can remember what they done to me.
Yeah, of course. This, again, this is just inhuman. And I look at these people in the news, how they're covered by the alleged news media, and I laugh. It's all lies. David, all lies.
Like you said, they're psychopaths. You know, right now I'm kind of chuckling about what you just said. It's not a laughing matter, but if you didn't laugh, you'd cry, because from what I remember from the time I was a child and up until now, I mean, it's a whole different country. It's just so sad. I mean, I have, you have too, but Kenny and we've been through them all. I mean, if it's not, John Fitzgerald Kennedy or Bobby Kennedy, if it's not Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr., I mean, we went through all these things, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, It's not getting any better.
There's no end to it. It's like greed. Where's the end of greed? There's no end to it. Just look at the bankers.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I did want to kind of touch on something, if it's okay.
Yeah.
This is your show, Jeff. Okay.
No, you do it.
I wanted to, back when the Pentagon and the Department of Defense, they set a plan for sharing non-lethal technology, or what they call non-lethal technology, to law enforcement. Okay. And one of the things that was discussed was these EMP, or electromagnetic pulse generators. Okay, these high-powered microwave generators that can destroy electronic circuits. They also broached this subject in 1996 with it was CBS Shoot Not to Kill, 60 Minutes, and Steve Kroft was the anchor person.
Right. And
what they were talking about was these EMP pulses. Okay, they call them EMP explosions, and they were talking to Janet and Christopher Morris, who these are individuals that were in the Clinton administration that were a part of all these various weapon systems. And what they were saying was that it was still in the making. They hadn't really, got the flux of it yet. But the bottom line is that people have to wake up. I mean, I'm just going to tell you from my point of view here. Like last summer, for instance, I was driving to work, and all of a sudden, the car got hit, okay, with what I can only describe as an EMP, explosion, okay? And what happened was my alternator blew, the battery blew, and I replaced it. I had a mechanic replace it. Before the 10 days were up, it happened again. Another alternator, another battery. Over this winter here in New York, I was driving down the road, and all of a sudden my car started shaking, just totally just rocking back and forth. And at this point, a pulley that's on the crank, that's on the crankshaft, it separated. It just totally split and separated. What I'm trying to say is that they on the 60 Minutes Shoot Not to Kill in 1996, they talked about this technology. Well, quite frankly, it's full blown right now. I've talked to people all across the United States of America, and I'm constantly talking to people, and they're telling me about how their engine was killed. They're just doing this, I believe. The way they discussed it before was that, there's a fleeing felon or somebody stole a car and they want to stop the car. But it's much more deeper than that. They're out to kill people. Okay. They are out to kill people.
Oh, yes.
My question to you, was like, what happened just before your accident? Do you remember exactly what happened just before you had your accident?
Yes, I do. I was driving home at 6:25 Pacific time. I'm on the air at 7, 35 minutes away, wide awake, about a half a mile from my driveway on a 2-lane highway, which I drive every day. And I'm looking at the road, hands on the wheel, no cars in front of me. And I blinked. And the next time I opened my eyes, it was 4.5 hours thereabout later. I was looking at a ceiling. I was no longer looking at the roadway in front of me. And I heard a lot of strange noises, electronic noises. I'm laying on my back. I realized that, and I said, "Where am I?" And a nurse came over and put her hand on me and said, "Mr. Rense, please don't move. You've been in a horrific car crash. You're bleeding profusely, and we're getting ready to operate to try to stop the bleeding." And I said, "What?" I said, "Bleeding from what?" And she said, "In your head. You have severe brain injuries." And at that point, I was so overwhelmed. It had been 4.5 hours I was in a coma, and I was trying to process all this. So I stopped talking, but my voice kept talking. This is a true story. My voice kept talking, and my voice said to that nurse in the ICU, "No surgery." And she took a couple steps back and said, "What?" And my voice, it wasn't me, my voice though, repeated it. "No surgery." And she said, "Mr. Rense, you don't understand. You could die at any moment. You have lost a lot. Anyway, you're bleeding profusely." And then the voice said, "I am in full control of my faculties. I do not authorize surgery under any circumstances. Do you understand me?" And she was stunned. She said, "They are on the way to get you with the gurney. 2 neurosurgeons are scrubbed. They're all standing by in the operating room." In other words, if I had stayed out for another 60 seconds, I wouldn't be talking to you now. I never would have come out of that operating room alive. I know that. I saw the CAT scans. There was so much blood in my head, so many wounds, damages to my brain. It was bleeding all over the place, and my whole cranium practically was full of blood. They were going to take the top of my head off and start cauterizing my brain to stop the bleeding. I would have been a drooling vegetable had I survived. As it was, something was watching over me and used my voice and canceled the surgery. I checked myself out the next day and went home. And that's what I remember. Exactly.
Well, where I want to go with this, I just want to bring up a couple things here, okay? We know about your head. We know you're in a lot of trauma and everything. You remember our U.S. embassy in China and Cuba?
Sure,
how the people
sure.
were saying?
And Berlin also.
Yes. Well, to piggyback off of that, you remember there was a lady, she was talking about their dogs. Do you remember what they said about the dogs, her dogs?
Vaguely. I know this story. Yeah. And Moscow, too, was another one, the Soviet Union. Go ahead.
That was 76. Yes. But she was talking about her dogs being affected the same way she was being affected. They said that she had head trauma. In fact, all the people that were involved in Cuba and China, as well as the one in Moscow in 1976, Strussel, all the ambassadors, he died of leukemia, aggressive form of leukemia.
Right.
They did nothing about it. They knew about it for a long time, and they did nothing about it. But this lady, she mentioned her dogs, okay? And this came to light. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I told you before a while back that I used to have a toll-free line, 888-902-9577. I had it for 18 years. People would call me up at all hours of the night and ask questions. They just needed somebody to talk to. A lot of them people were suicidal. My point is that I got this call from this individual and from Greene, New York, okay? And he was in his trailer at this time, and all of a sudden his cat, it kind of exploded, the rear end out. The cat just exploded. And that was dragging his entrails behind him, okay, all through the trailer.
Right.
Now, just as this was happening, two sheriff deputies show up at this individual's house, his trailer, and they knock on the door, and they see the cat. They immediately grab him, throw him in the car, and take him to a hospital for a psych evaluation. Okay, so now I'm going back to this covert operations of the U.S. Security Agency when I talked to John St. Clair Acqui. We've talked about him before on your program.
Yeah.
And he said, very specifically, I talked to him on the phone, and he says that they developed a proprietary advanced digital equipment which can remotely analyze all objects, whether man-made or organic, as long as they have this electrical activity. They're dealing with electrical activity. So it doesn't matter whether you're a human being, it doesn't matter whether you're a dog, an animal, whatever. They have the capability of locking in to this electrical activity and doing grave damage.
So they profile it. It's all profiled. It's all in supercomputers. Every life form has a signature. That's what you're saying, I think. Exactly. And so when you had this accident, the reason why I was questioning, you had this accident, and all of a sudden, it was like lights out. The next lights
thing you
out.
remember,
It was just exactly like somebody threw a switch, and I was gone. Just that quick, microsecond, gone. The car went off the road, 65 miles an hour, down into a 5-foot deep ditch, proceeded along, hit a driveway that was crossing that ditch, and did a end-over-end cartwheel. This was a Land Cruiser, it was a big car. End over end, then it began rolling side over side, and my head kept hitting the driver's side window. The airbags deployed, but the damage was done as I was thrown side to side, and my head kept hitting the side glass next to me, behind my ear on the left side of my head. And when you get hit on one side, the damage, actually the impact, sends a shock wave all the way across to the other side, so you're being damaged on both sides as you swing back away from the window. And I had what was called a massive dual subdural hematoma. And I have the CAT scans, and I've looked up a lot of CAT scans to see what I was looking at, try to interpret it, and I really shouldn't be here. It's just ridiculous. You get
Well, I'm glad that you are. I'm glad that you are there, because the radio stations and all these individuals, the media is so corrupt, it's good to know that there are some people out there that will address the hard issues.
Yeah. Well, I've never stayed away from that because they're not so much hard issues as that they are our reality, which is taken from us. We have God-given rights, all right? Whether you're an atheist or not, you're born with certain inalienable rights, as our founding fathers said. And who are these people to take them away from us? They're not people by my definition. There's something else. There is evil on this planet. You can call it possession, you can call it demons, you can call it Satan, whatever you want. But there's no doubt that there is evil aplenty on this planet. Hold on, we'll be back. Okay, welcome back. Talking with Ken Rhoades and David Brinsko. This whole subject is huge. There are many of you listening right now who feel you may have been interfered with. What are some of the simple and obvious signs, David Brinsko, that people might take note of that would suggest strongly that they are being played with?
Well, first of all, when you have any kind of ailment or whatever, I mean, if they don't give you an etiology for it, if the doctor doesn't, he says, well, there's no etiology, no medical reason for this to be going on, I don't see anything, okay? That's a sure indication, too, that something's going on. With me, it was blurred vision, okay? I've had blurred vision for 36 years, all of a sudden out of nowhere, okay? I've had artificial tinnitus for 36 years, out of nowhere. I've had I've been burned from my head all the way down to my toes. In fact, when I went to visit my youngest daughter in Florida, we were on the beach. She looks at my legs and she says, "Daddy," she says, "what happened to your legs?" Okay. I'm having, and quite frankly, I believe Kenny is having trouble with his legs, the same place I'm having trouble with my legs. I don't know. Is he on the line?
I'm on the line.
How are your legs?
My legs the same way. They hit my legs and feet all the time. But he's asking about how will people recognize. I think the first thing you recognize when they want you to know is the organized stalking. All of a sudden, people are following you around the grocery store, the hardware store. Anywhere you go, there's people that always got some comment about something that you said in your house that was private. They start repeating what you say. I think that's the first sign that they want you to know they're trying to put fear in you.
Oh,
that's
hey,
the first thing a person should look
that's
for.
Very interesting. Because I laughed. I figured it out, but I was in the market, 3 weeks ago, and I was alone in a long aisle, and this guy comes walking from the other end of the aisle to walk past me. Kind of a goofy-looking, raggy-looking guy, 6'2"-ish, maybe. And he walked past me, and about 10, 15 feet past me, he said, I heard him. He said, I just passed him in the aisle. And I looked, and whoever he was talking to didn't hear him, and he repeated it. He said, I just passed him in the aisle. I heard this. It wasn't loud, but I heard it clearly. So, yeah, just letting you know that they're there, and they're playing around. So
I never had the experience of stalking, okay? One time I was followed, but I ended up following them. See, because I'm from New York, okay? And I grew up in and I ended up following him. And when I did that, they just split. Okay, that's the only incident I remember as far as stalking. But my thing was more of a physical thing with the blurred vision, with the artificial tinnitus. I don't know if you're familiar with the case in Leroy, New York, where 12 students in the same school had this Tourette's-type syndrome where they were jerking and everything. Do you remember
I remember that? Yes, I do.
Okay, well, that was the Genesee Sheriff Department. I'm sure of that. We've researched that pretty well. And, of course, you know, they're in denial or whatever, but everybody in the country came there, including Aaron Brockovich. And, but these, when I talked to the father of one of the girls, and it's pretty evident to him and to me, okay, that that this was all done with technology. First and foremost, because we set up a symptoms list in 2006, 2006, just after the Washington rally about these technologies. And we got feedback from all the individuals. I call them victims. I don't call them target individuals. And we came up with a list of symptoms, and the ones that showed up the most are the ones we put on the list. And the Tourette syndrome was one of the things that we all talked about. In other words, this jerky feeling and constantly jerking. And this is what happened in Leroy. And it just so happens that the sheriff's department is on location at that school all the time.
Yeah, there you go. This is not good. This is bad. You mentioned tinnitus. I've known people who have tinnitus. There's nothing they can do about it. It sort of drives them nuts. It's a high-frequency sound, I guess. What was yours like? Can you describe it? It's hard to describe, but it's simple to describe. And it comes out of nowhere, according to what I'm told.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does come out of nowhere. But my thing is that I took a course by Jose Silva. You ever hear that guy?
No.
Okay, Jose Silva, he did mind research for 50 plus years, okay? Mm-hmm. And I was having this, I still have the tinnitus right now, but he says things in this course that will kind of take you away from the things that are going on in your life, okay? The serious cramps and everything. I mean, they literally exploded my legs. I used to be a track star. In high school, I broke, college records in high school in 1965. And my legs have always been important to me, and they know this, and they literally exploded the inside and caused, internal bleeding in my hamstrings. And, it's just crazy. I know I'm getting up the subject a little bit here, but the bottom line is that, all these physical things Ted Gunderson talked about, he talked about, if you can picture yourself, your body, and you can picture yourself in a longitude and latitude lines, the longitude around and latitude lines going over, and wherever these lines intersect, that's a point of where they can hit you. Okay, they break your body down, okay, in pieces, and they use this quite a bit. I don't know if you've ever seen a war room before, but there's been people that describe a war room, and they know exactly what I'm talking about right now. I can only tell you what Ted Gunderson told me. And, but it's bad. It's very bad. But getting back to Jose Silva, that course helped me a great deal. And I continually talk to people about it all the time, because it gives you a form of relief of the things that are going on in your life, helps you to concentrate where sometimes there is no concentration because of the cramps and all the things they do to you.
The idea, Kenny, of tinnitus, pretty common. Now, they can dial somebody up. They know what our personal frequencies are. They can find us geographically with no problem. I'm wondering if the tinnitus sometimes might be reflective of the EMF millimeter wave, whatever they're using. It might be a residual from the carrier wave that they're using to introduce things into your body and your consciousness. That the tinnitus is, they've got you dialed up, they've got the frequency open, and they'll embed in that frequency whatever they want any time. Is that a possibility for tinnitus?
No question. No question. What you're saying, I'm going to tell you how it works with me, okay, how it has worked with me, is what happens is right now we're at beta, we're at action, okay? What they do is they put you to sleep every night, and they also wake you up throughout the course of the night. Now, at beta, you're at action, but then they take you down to alpha, okay? As you go to alpha, you get a little sleep, you get a little drowsy. Right. Next, you go into theta.
Yeah.
And as you go into theta, you're beginning to go into a deeper sleep, and finally you go into delta. It's at that point where things really start happening, okay? And you'll notice it as time goes on. Like, a whole lot of things will come up because that's where that's when they program you at Delta, in deep sleep. And a whole lot of things can transpire from that programming.
Very interesting. Kenny, go ahead.
And also, Jeff, you get it's like a low humming whistle sound on the tinnitus. You can't, no matter what you do, you can put cotton in your ear, you can do anything. It doesn't go away for a long time. Then they can also, I don't know if you've ever got leg cramps so bad that they make you want to cry. You get out of bed and you try to stretch it or bend your leg or your foot, and that's another sign that they're hitting people if they watch for that.
Cramp you up. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I mean, leg cramps. Oh, terrible. Then people say, "Oh, you need to eat more potassium." Yeah, you can eat all the potassium you want. When they throw that on you, it doesn't matter what you've ate.
So I guess what we need to answer now, or try to answer, is why? Why the physical torture? Why the emotional, mental, psychological torture? What are they trying to...
Okay, let me answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
They want you to get the feeling of helplessness. Like you can't, no matter what you do, you're just helpless. Mm-hmm. That's what they want you to feel. And for what reason, I don't know. It's like I can't do anything about it. So, you're helpless. That's the only thing I can figure out on that, what they do to people.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Well, also, the military is involved big time, okay? I've talked to a lot of military people, and I also talked to a lot of researchers, okay, that used to research, especially in Canada. I was talking to a Dr. Henry Nichols, and he said this is all about testing strength and consistency of control over time. And what they deal with a lot of times is a lot of stress. Okay, they use Hans Selye. He was called the father of stress. He broke stress down into three stages. There's alarm, okay, like when you get a cramp or you wake up at night, I mean, you're actually screaming out because the cramp is just that bad. Or maybe you have they hit your chest or something like they did with Gloria Naylor, the woman, she wrote The Women of Brewster's Place, and she talked to me about that a lot too. It's an alarm effect. It wakes you right up. It's stress, immediate stress. And the second stage after the alarm, it's resist and adapt, okay? It's like a woman in labor. You're resisting this contraction. You're resisting, and all of a sudden you adapt, okay? And then the last thing, especially with the women, okay, they have this labor thing going on. He uses the labor thing a lot. The women, after hours of labor, okay, of going through the contractions, what happens? The woman is exhausted. And what does she do? She delivers and she sleeps. She rests. And this is what it's all about. A lot of this is about the stress factor because you're on the battlefield and they equate it, to, you're staying up 24/7. You're on point. If you don't stay awake, you're going to die. There's a lot of stress, okay, on the battlefield. And so the military is very interested in, in stressful activity. And so that's part of it as well. That's what I'm trying to say.
Among other things, they're using the masses whenever and however they want. This is supposedly what the evil Nazis were doing during the war. We're doing it far down the road from that technologically. We've got it down to the nano size. We are so far away from World War II horrors, it's not funny. This is ridiculous. And they can introduce cancer into people, as we all know now. Cancer that's not treatable, that will destroy your life in short order. Remember, the Congressman Stephen, the one from New Mexico. I want to say Schiff, but I don't think it was Schiff. Anyway, he was the one who was going after the government to try to find proof of ET programs, research, and all the rest of it. And he went after the General Accounting Office. Well, in no time at all, he came down with this face cancer. It's normally treatable. He was in his 50s, I think, healthy guy. But there was no treating it. It got worse, and he died in about 6 weeks. And that ended his research into the UFO cover-up.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And what do you think? And what do you think 5G is going to do? You're going to have people getting cancer, and they're not going to have no clue that it's a technology that's killing them.
No, none. No clue. No. And they will be able to find people on the basis of their DNA, their genetics. Everyone's DNA is different just enough, so it's like a fingerprint. This is all being cataloged and databased. I know it sounds like science fiction, but you really have to keep in mind that the Black Ops boys and girls and their technology are decades ahead of what is commonly admitted and talked about. Decades. They're way down the road. This stuff is old hat to them. Just like we have a deep space fleet that nobody talks about. Anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
What else? Do you have anything else, Dave, you want to present? We got about...
I could write volumes on this.
Yeah, I know.
Stuff, but
anything today? We got about 8 minutes.
8 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. My thing is, I've done extensive research on the sheriff departments across the land. We have sometimes 3,077 counties across the nation, and for every county is represented by a sheriff. I just want to reemphasize the fact that instead of, and this is after years and years of writing, congressmen and senators at the federal level and the state level, I say right now, if you're out there and you think you're being victimized, okay, through some technology or whatever, I say start at the county level. Start right at the county level, because the county level, the sheriff of every county is responsible, okay, for gaining information through this information warfare system. And this is not just according to what I'm saying. I'm talking about Dennis Kucinich and John Glenn. When he left office, he talked about these things. They're responsible for every citizen in their county, gaining information on each citizen. And so if you think there's something going on, okay, which it is, but the thing is sometimes you don't recognize it right away, because I truly believe that this whole nation has been wrapped, okay, with technology. But if you really suspect something's going on, I would suggest, instead of starting at the federal level, start at the county level and let these individuals know, because they have the technology. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've talked to many retired sheriff deputies, and they'll openly say, hey, yeah, and Kenny gave me a couple too. I called them up. They'll talk about it, okay, on a one-on-one, okay, but as far as coming out and, stepping out and saying, hey, look, this has got to stop, they're not into that. They protect each other. So I would start at the county level, and I would let them know that I let the Sheriff Association for the state, I let them know, I let the National Sheriff's Association, whatever your state you're in, I would start right there, and I would let them know, hey, look, we know what's going on, okay, and you better cool it, because of the fact that there is no statute of limitations. You may go to jail one day for what you've done. Okay, so you better cool your tracks, because this is what's going on. And they take on contracts. I know for a fact, I've talked to a couple officers. They know about individuals being paid through the sheriff's department. I know one in particular. I can't talk about it on the air, but they took him for millions and millions of dollars. He was a famous singer. Okay, a famous singer. Everybody knows who he is. I can't talk about it, the name-wise, that is, because I try to protect some people. But the bottom line is that they took him for millions and millions of dollars. And the sheriff's department, one of the individuals that worked in the sheriff's department, was responsible for making the moves on this individual. Because they get in your bank accounts, just like Kenny's been talking about with this Dennis Montgomery. They can get in your bank accounts. They can bring you down to nothing. You'll be homeless if they can do that too. They did it with Gerald Sosby. He was living out of a car. He was a special agent in charge of the FBI, and they brought him down. They brought him down, okay, because he's a whistleblower, and he wouldn't go along with the program. Then Ted Gunderson wouldn't go along with the program. Mark Phillips wouldn't go along with the CIA program, MK Ultra. This is what goes on. But I would start at the county level. I don't want to rant too much, but that's the bottom line. Start with the county level and let them know whatever state you're in, whoever's listening tonight, just start at that level and trust me, you're going to get results. You may wake up at night, you may be cramped up, they may twist you like a pretzel, but the bottom line is that if you either stand for what you believe in, okay, even if you're the only one standing, you've got to do it. Because our nation is in turmoil. It's chaotic right now, from the head all the way down. So, we got to do something, and we can only hope and pray that, something happens to stop this confusion that's going on in our country right now.
Well, I'd like to think that would do some good. I know a lot of people will say, well, why should I stick my neck out? That's the way it works, though. You cow the masses, and they'll... By their silence, they allow. It happens. Kenny, we have just a couple minutes left. What do you want to do by way of wrapping this up? I hope it's been helpful for all of you listening. This is really important information. It's all true. There's no exaggeration anywhere. It's the reality in which we live. Kenny?
I just want to thank you, Jeff, for letting us come on. And if you put this on YouTube or something, send me the link. I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
But Jeff... You'll never know how much I appreciate it, because this is pretty dear to me. I'm not fighting for my freedom. I'm 75 now, but I got great grandkids and grandkids and others, and I'm not just fighting for mine. I'm fighting for the whole America, and everybody's got kids and grandkids. Because if we don't stop this, we're not going to have any freedom left, none whatsoever. It doesn't matter. I'm not a Democrat or I'm not a Republican, because as far as I'm concerned, it's one party, and we the people are not invited to it. And that's what they want to keep us. That's how they divide and conquer us.
That's the truth. Well, real quickly, we got a couple minutes left. I got a couple of emails here. Senator Paul Wellstone, his plane was taken down with a simple EMF weapon, a beam weapon. They dropped that plane. And that plane, if you remember, burned for something like 6 hours, which planes just don't do. The plane was packed with accelerants, and it just kept burning. They kill people all the time. Human life means nothing to these people. And that's the most important rule I think we can start with. Human life doesn't mean anything to these people. They laugh at our morality. They laugh at our compassion and our care. It means nothing to them. A final comment, David?
Just piggyback on what you said. I've always thought there was something up with the JFK Jr.
There was a bomb put in the luggage compartment, blew the tail right off his plane. There was a reporter on the beach who saw the flash and then heard the report a couple seconds later as the plane was coming down toward Martha's Vineyard. Blew it off, and the plane went down, killing all three of them. Remember, that wasn't an FAA investigation. The military took that over instantly. Coast Guard, exactly. Navy, they closed the whole area off. Why? Because it was a murder. And they had no interest in having anybody finding out about it. So this came down from the top, sadly. Oh, I know, Kenny. What happened very quickly with the reversal, the Bundy reversal on immigration? What is going on with that?
I have no clue. I talked to Carol Bundy just the other day when I was in Arizona. She said, I told Alman to stay out of politics. Because I don't know why Alman's the only one that said it, as far as I know.
Uh-huh.
But, man, that was a mistake, because just because he's a Mormon and he thinks that, we're all God's children. But you know what? We can be all God's children. I don't care where you're born at. Come over here legal and come through our borders.
Oh, yeah.
Don't bring diseases and come here legal. I'm not for open borders, I'll tell you that right now.
No chance.
And I let Alman know it.
Very good. All right. Well, that's another one I get occasional questions about. Thank you very much, David Brinsko, again, for your contributions. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. And Kenny, thank you, as always, for doing what you've done.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Good night. Take care.
Good night.